Indictment number 2204769. State of Tennessee versus Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, Jamarcus Johnson. Indictment for conspiracy to commit murder first degree, murder first degree. Tennessee Code Annotated 3912103, Sketch Code 31015, Tennessee Code Annotated 3913202, Sketch Code 21015. Witness F. Frias, MPD, summoned for the state. J. Browning, Multi-Agency Gang Unit, J. Browning. A true bill signed Mayor Bernard, foreperson of the grand jury, date indictment returned November 10th, 2022. State of Tennessee, Criminal Court of Shelby County, September term 2022. Count 1. The grand jurors of the state of Tennessee, duly selected, impaneled, sworn and charged to inquire for the body of the county of Shelby, Tennessee, upon their oath present that Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, Jamarcus Johnson, between June 1st, 2021 and March 1st, 2022 in Shelby County, Tennessee, and before the finding of this indictment, did unlawfully, intentionally, with premeditation, and with the intent to commit the offense of first-degree murder as classified in Tennessee Code Annotated 3913202 against the person of Adolph Thornton Jr., enter into an agreement with each other to commit the said offense, that said Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, and Jamarcus Johnson, acting for the purpose of promoting or facilitating the commission of the said offense, and agreeing that one or more of them would engage in conduct which would constitute the said offense. In furtherance of the conspiracy of the said conspiracy, one or more of the parties to the conspiracy committed an overt act, to wit, Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, traveled to 2370 Airways Boulevard and killed Adolph Thornton Jr. Cornelius Smith traveled to 2370 Airways Boulevard and killed Adolph Thornton Jr. Hernandez Govan solicited both Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, and Cornelius Smith to kill Adolph Thornton Jr. Jamarcus Johnson aided in Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop's, hideout and escape after the killing of Adolph Thornton Jr. Aided communications between Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, and Cornelius Smith after the killing of Adolph Thornton Jr., and facilitated payments to Cornelius Smith for the killing of Adolph Thornton Jr., all of which is in violation of Tennessee Code Annotated 3912103 against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, signed Steve Mulroy, District Attorney General, 30th Judicial District. Count 2. The grand jurors of the state of Tennessee, duly selected, impaneled, sworn, and charged to inquire for the body of the county of Shelby, Tennessee, upon their oath present that Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, on November 17, 2021 in Shelby County, Tennessee, and before the finding of this indictment, did unlawfully, intentionally, and with premeditation kill Adolph Thornton Jr. in violation of Tennessee Code Annotated 3913202 against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, Signed, Steve Mulroy, District Attorney General, 30th Judicial District.
Mr. Govan and counsel, how do you plead?
Not guilty to both counts, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay.
Good morning. We met last week, but for formality's sake, my name is Iris Williams, and I represent the state of Tennessee. When I was a kid, one thing that my mom always told me is that there are few things that we can control. But one of those things are our choices. Our choices can move mountains. Our choices can get us into trouble. And our choices can mean life and death. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about choices. You're going to hear a lot of evidence this week. You're going to hear a lot of names. But the name that I want you to remember is Hernandez Govan. And I want you to remember the choices he made. And even more importantly, I want you to remember the consequences of those choices. Picture this. November 17th, 2021. The victim, Adolph Thornton, and his brother. They pull up to Makita's Cookie Shop on Airways Boulevard. They park the car, they get out, they talk to the cashier, and seconds later, a white Mercedes pulls up and Adolph Thornton is gunned down and killed. You'll hear from Dr. Juliet Scantleberry, the medical examiner in this case. She'll tell you that Thornton's body had around 20 gunshot entrance wounds to his neck, his chest, his arms, and a catastrophic injury to his face. But how did we get here? How do we start? Where will we begin? This trial will begin with Erica Thornton. She'll tell you that she is Mr. Thornton's sister. She'll tell you about the last time that she saw her brother alive. And she'll tell you when she heard that he was gone. And after Ms. Thornton testifies, you'll hear from Mr. Raul Hopkins. He'll tell you that he worked for security for Thornton for years. And Adolph Thornton just wasn't Adolph Thornton. He was known across the city as Young Dolph, a musician. His music, his artistry, his journey, his ambition inspired and spoke to this city in ways that a lot of artists just couldn't do. Thornton made his own way in the music industry, and he created a label called PRE, Paper Route Empire. Hopkins will tell us about it. He'll tell us that Adolph Thornton made his way in the music industry and created opportunities for other artists. But when you create opportunities for others, some people don't seem to like that. So Hopkins will tell us about another label, CMG, also known as Cocaine Music Group. He'll tell us about the history and the tension between these two labels. He'll tell us that CMG wanted Thornton as their own, but when he decided to pave his own way, when he decided to be self-made, he became CMG's enemy. Hopkins is going to set the stage for how this story truly began. And after Hopkins, you'll hear from Cornelia Smith. And this is when it all will click. Smith is a co-defendant. He'll tell you that he met Govan in 2021, They met through Smith's friend, Bobby Carter. And Smith has a couple of nicknames for Govan. He calls him Big Bro or Quet. Govan started out by selling drugs to Smith, pills more specifically. But that's not the only thing that Govan did. Govan chose Smith. And Govan chose him to do a job. Govan also chose Justin Johnson, another co-defendant, to do that same job. A job that ended in the life and death of Adolph Thornton Jr. He chose two desperate people. Smith, needing money, needing to support his family. Justin Johnson, an aspiring and up-and-coming rap artist that wanted to be on CMG's label, the very label that Govan had access to and was affiliated with. Smith will also talk about a meeting at Govan's house. The people present at that meeting were Smith, Govan, Justin Johnson, and Anthony Mims, also known as Big Jook. Now, Jook is the number 2 person at the CMG label. Smith will tell you that Govan said that there was a bounty on Adolph Thornton's life. In fact, there were multiple bounties on PRE artists. Govan told Smith that there was a $100,000 bounty on Adolph Thornton's life, and that the money was good. The money was guaranteed if Smith and Johnson completed this job. So what did they do? What did the two desperate people do? They agreed. And Govan asked for a $10,000 cut from each of them. He chose to ask for this cut from each of them. And one thing that is important to note is that Smith and Johnson didn't even really know each other, but they knew Govan. Govan was the link between them. So let's fast forward to November 2021. Smith hears that Thornton and other PRE artists are in town. It's Thanksgiving time. PRE often hosts turkey drives at different locations across the city, so they knew that they were around. Justin Johnson picks up Smith from Smith's father's house, and they go hunting. They get to a stoplight on Airways, and at that stoplight, they see a special car pass through. And what is that car? A blue camouflage Corvette. Most people in Memphis know that there is only one person in this city that drives that car in this region of town. Adolph Thornton. So what does Smith and what does Johnson do? They follow that car. They follow that car. The car parks at Makita's cookie shop. And seconds later, Smith and Johnson pull up in a stolen white Mercedes, gun down, and kill Adolph Thornton Jr. in broad daylight. They get back in the car, speed off, but not before Thornton's brother, Marcus Thornton, fires shots and shoots Smith. So Smith and Johnson are in this stolen white Mercedes. But where do they go? They go to ditch the car. They ditch the car, and we'll hear from Sergeant Dabney that the car was left at 1174 Bradley Street, which they later found out is directly across the street from the defendant's home. After they ditch the car, Cornelius Smith and Justin Johnson go to an apartment complex to change clothes and clean up their rooms. Cornelius notices something. he doesn't have his phone. He realizes that he left his phone in the white Mercedes, the murder car that they left across the street from the defendant's house. So what does he do? He uses Justin Johnson's phone to contact his own girlfriend, Angela Arnold, and you will also hear from her. You'll hear from Angela Arnold and you'll hear from Cornelia Smith that she picked him up from that apartment complex. When she picked him up, he told her what happened. He told her that he was hurt. And he told her that he was missing his phone. So what did he do next? Smith contacted Govan from Angela Arnold's phone and asked to meet so he could get his phone back. Ladies and gentlemen, there are copious amounts of phone records, and Sergeant Browning will testify that these call detail records will support what Smith is saying. And if that's not enough, Angela Arnold will tell you that she and Smith met with Govan after the murder so that Smith could get his phone back. But that's not where it ends. Smith will tell you that at that exchange, Govan gave him money to buy a car cover, to hide the white Mercedes, to hide the murder car that was parked directly across the street from his own home. Not only that, but the day before Cornelia Smith was arrested, he ran into Govan. Govan was concerned. Govan was worried that Cornelia Smith had not been paid. And so what did he tell Smith? He told Smith that he was going to go to Privé to make sure Smith got his money. Privé is a lounge and restaurant that's affiliated with CMG artists. Ladies and gentlemen, choices. A choice to get two desperate people to agree to murder Adolph Thornton. A choice to guarantee them money. A choice to ask for a cut of that money. A choice to help one of the killers get his phone back after the murder. A choice to make sure that one of the killers got paid after the murder. Choices. When you hear all of the evidence, and when you hear all of the videos and look at all of the photos and exhibits, you will see the consequences of Govan's actions. Violence, death, loss. A man, a human being, taken from this world in one of the most shocking of ways, getting cookies for his family in broad daylight in his neighborhood during the holidays. At the end of this week, the state will be asking you, the jury, to make a choice. The defendant is charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and first-degree murder. Last week in jury selection, we talked about theories of conspiracy and criminal responsibility. And once you have heard all of the evidence, the state will ask you to make a choice and find Hernandez Govan guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Thank you.
I need to switch the screen. Switch the screen. Your Honor, is it okay if I use the card?
Right. He's going to.
It's just gonna take a minute. Let's switch it over.
That's not me. I think the screen might have done it.
You need to get connected to your laptop.
Right, but it went away.
You have the TV remote.
What happened?
I think it might have went off.
Is that doing anything?
Just turned off. It's on the projector.
Get it started.
You okay?
This is the first, the only Indian guy that doesn't know how to do IT. Let me know as far as that goes. My name is Manny Aurora. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm here representing Mr. Hernandez Govan, along with our former IT specialist, Robert Wilson, who's also a lawyer, Haley Halty-Wenger, who's sitting in the white suit, and then also Beth Noble, who's in the black suit, as far as that goes. Last week, I talked to you guys a lot about first impressions. And the reason I mentioned that is sometimes the first impression can be wrong. I listened to a very beautiful, eloquent speech from the prosecutor in this case, and it sounds really, really good. But that's the false first impression, because you promised that as a peer of Mr. Govan, you would listen to everything. So let me share to you the rest of the story. This entire case is going to come down to the guy with the machine gun that shot off Adolph Thornton. The whole case is going to come down to him, and then possibly his girlfriend backing up his story. Remember, Cornelius Smith has made at least 5 different statements to law enforcement over the course of a year where everything changes. He's then met with the prosecution at least 5 or 6 times to go over his testimony prior to testifying here today. So you should ask yourself the question when the judge instructed you, does somebody have a reason to lie? Do they have an interest in the outcome? You are caught red-handed on video, and you're about to see it in a second, taking an AK-47 or lighting it up at a cookie store in broad daylight. He's facing a mandatory life sentence, as I'm going to question him about. And I ask each and every one of you, what would you do if you were facing a mandatory life sentence to get out of it? Why would you need to make so many different statements if you were telling the truth? Because remember, The truth is the truth. You don't need to practice it. You don't need to remember it. It's the truth. So let's see who the government has gotten in bed with to try to prove their case against Hernandez Govan. Robert? So the man you have to believe is the man who's capable of, in broad daylight, carrying an AK-47, going into a store full of people, and just, without hesitation, opening fire. And he's the one that's going to tell you that Mr. Govan did this, this, and this. Nothing that he says can be validated. The other thing the government's going to try to talk to you about is cell phone tower records. The expert that the government may call, or if they don't call him, I'll call him, will tell you tower records are inherently unreliable because it's not like on TV. There's a reason why all the engineers from the cell phone providers, T-Mobile, AT&T specifically, write in their letters they will not testify in court because of the unreliability. The other thing you have to know, and Robert put up the slide, within a 10 square mile area of where all this happened, there are 553 T-Mobile towers. 553 just from T-Mobile. And it's hard to see this because there's so many. There will be more AT&T towers. There will be this, essentially over 1,000 towers out there. And what the expert will tell you is this isn't an exact science. Just because your phone pings on a certain tower doesn't mean you were there. See, towers get filled up, and you may have to transfer to the next tower near. All these people live within a couple of mile radius, so of course it's going to hit all these towers. But there is 553 just from T-Mobile within that area where all this happened. They talked to you about conspiracy and how Govan picked these two individuals. The state chooses to cherry pick a little bit here and a little bit there from each of the statements. But let me play a 5-second clip about how all this supposedly happened. I'm not saying it happened. I'm not saying Govan is involved in one way, shape, or form. But if you want to believe Cornelius Smith, the AK-47 shooter, and God knows how many other shootings he's done, and he'll talk about it. I want you to listen to this.
It was one day me and Angela was out riding, and I wanted some X pills, so I went to Quay House to get the X pills from him, and Juke was over there. And when I walked in, there was one quick told Juke, this little seat right here, and mine, Juke was like, is a hit on my First, he said, take all the phones outside, you know. He ain't say my phone, he was saying quit phone, but I passed my phone to make it feel comfortable. So, took the phone outside, and Jude was like, is a hit him out of here, hit him, and he got us. And I can't recall like exactly when it was, but that's what he said.
All right. So the state just told you to your face that Mr. Govan picked out two desperate people. Cornelius Smith, if you are to believe him, says in his statement, I just happened to be going by Quet's house, Govan's house, to buy some ecstasy pills with my girlfriend. Juke happened to be there. He doesn't say Quet said a word. Juke says there's a hit on everybody, and I got you, and Juke says, take the phones outside while I talk to you. Assuming you believe any of that's true. And the reason I ask you if you think any of that's true is the police never went to question Juke, aka Anthony Mims, or Yogati, or any of the people with CMG. Never once even tried to do an interview. So this is as plain as day. Juke said do it. Quet didn't say anything. Quet lives in the poorest part of Memphis in Orange Mound, sells a few ecstasy pills to make a living, and hustles with some sports gambling. He's a nobody, and that's why I asked you about the peers. He's a throwaway that they can blame. Why did they not talk to Jook or anybody else with CMG? Ever. Now, Jook ended up getting killed in 2024, 2.5 years after the fact. Never arrested, never talked to, never interviewed, never pursued, never surveilled, nothing. The judge also told you, when you assess credibility, you need to look at how well you remember this thing. Cornelius Smith cannot even tell you when he was propositioned to go kill somebody. The shooting happened in November 17, 2021. And the best the police can say is that this meeting, where just randomly happened, as Cornelius himself has said, was sometime between August and September, 3 months prior to the shooting taking place. 3 months. He will tell you there's no plan. All he was told by Jerk was there's a price on their heads. And that's kind of funny because when the cops, if they testify honestly, will tell you there have been multiple attempts on Mr. Dolph's life. Twice in Charlotte by other folks and once in Los Angeles. Everybody in Memphis knew there was a price on their head because there was a war between PRE and CMG. They were shooting each other. Yo Gotti's car was shot up here. The song 100 Shots came up after one of these things. There's a rivalry going on and people have been shooting. The police went through this. They know this. They also pulled YouTube videos where people are openly threatening to kill Dolph. It's in their slideshow. You know what they call their investigation? Operation Cookie Monster. That's how tasteful this whole thing has gotten with these folks. I'm sorry, my arms are shaking because I'm so furious that we're here as far as the trial goes. So the other thing the government hasn't told you when we talk about first impressions is, for weeks prior to the November 17, 2021 shooting, nobody called Govan, talked to him, did anything, be it Justin Johnson or Cornelius Smith. What Cornelius will tell you, which the government didn't tell you, is that morning, it was Cornelius's daughter's birthday. But he gets a call from Justin Johnson that says, I got a car, let's go do something. They get in the car and they start driving around, just looking for somebody to kill. They just happened to see Young Dolph's car going by. And they open fire. And they kill him. And the interesting thing is, even though nobody communicated with Govan for weeks prior to this, they didn't talk to him that morning. He didn't help him get the car. He didn't help him escape. He didn't tell him what to do. He didn't tell him where to go. He didn't do anything. It was a spontaneous issue between two young men that morning. They shot him. And you know why there's no plan? Because they just start calling random people after the shooting. They don't call Govan. They have to go someplace to get bandaged up as far as that goes. The people that help them, never been charged as accessories to anything. They then get rid of whatever they need to get rid of. They left the car across the street from Govan's house on the middle of the street, in front of the street. So if there's some master plan, that may be one of the dumbest plans you could possibly have if you're going to kill the most important person, the most famous person in Memphis, as far as that goes. Again, there were no phone contacts for weeks prior to the shooting, especially in the morning. Govan wouldn't know that the Mercedes was used. The only way anybody finds out is social media blows up right away, and multiple people start calling Justin Johnson, including Govan, who knows him, because the word's out that Justin may have done this. Trayon Ingram is another word you'll hear. He actually carjacked the white Mercedes and then gave it to these gentlemen to use in the shooting. He's not charged in this case. He's not even charged with carjacking. But he happened to pick up another murder right after this happened, and so now he's in custody for the other murder that he committed. Perhaps when making first impressions, you would have wanted to know that. I thought about going over at least one of Cornelius's statements in his life, but I think it's just a little too much. We would be here for about 2 hours going through everything that he said has been inconsistent, bald-faced lies. In fact, you know how somebody's lying? Because in his first interview, that lasted a little over an hour, 32 times he told the police, trust me, I promise, I swear to God, I wouldn't lie to you. 32 times he says that before answering one of his questions on one of his first interviews after he's caught. And after he's caught, his girlfriend gets questioned because they ran down the license plate numbers, all that stuff with the cars. She lies through her teeth on December 14th of 2021, says, I don't know nothing about nothing. Because Cornelius had talked to her and tried to make up a false alibi. See, where's the plan in all this? See, if I have a plan to go kill somebody, we have a place to go dig something far away. I have people that can cover for me as an alibi. I don't make random phone calls. And so Angela, who knew nothing about this according to her, picks them up at the location where they're getting bandaged up for being shot, drives them around town, helps them out. Of course, she's not charged. She initially lies and denies everything. The police then come back and said, we're going to charge you if you don't tell us the truth. And so on the 17th of December, 3 days later, she comes back. But what the police don't know at that time is Mr. Cornelius Smith has called 4 of his family members to reach out to Angela to get the story straight. Because he keeps saying on the jail phone calls, find out what she said, find out what she said, find out what she said. And then on the 17th, it comes back, and they're talking to her. And she says, well, we went over to that house sometime in the past, just like we talked about. She doesn't know anybody. She said, I can't think of his name. And the interesting part is, the officers say, is it somebody named Q? And then she says, oh yeah, it's Quet. Remember the phrase Bobby Carter that they mentioned? Bobby Carter also lives on Bradley Avenue. They're good friends with Cornelius Smith, and they buy pills together and do ecstasy pills together. And the other thing Angela Smith says is, Govan brought us the phone after the fact. How is that part of any plan or anything else? They call and say, give me a phone. The interesting thing about that is if it's true and you believe her, there would be fingerprints on the car. The police fingerprinted it, DNA'd it, did everything. Cornelius' fingerprints are there. Treon Ingram's fingerprints are there. Kirsten Garner, the other guy that worked with Treon to steal the car, his fingerprints are there. There's DNA in there. There's blood in there. But nothing with regards to Govan. They found the car 3 days after the shooting took place across the street from Mr. Govan's house. Has nothing to do with him, didn't touch it. So if he didn't do that, how does he open the door? And frankly, how did he get the keys to open the door? See, Cornelius doesn't give you the details. Did they lock the car after they left? Where were the keys? He doesn't know about any of that stuff. So tell me how Mr. Govan got into the car and how he did it so beautifully, being dumb enough to take the murder car of one of the most famous people and say, let's just park it across the street, and then somehow magically wiped his prints, DNA, hair, anything out of that car while he's looking for the phone. You know why that is? Because he didn't do it. What you're going to hear from Treon Ingram is Treon Ingram, when he stole the car, left his backpack, his wallet, and some other things in the car, and he had Justin Johnson go get them. You will hear that from Treon Ingram's own statement with regards to that car. This is why I talk about first impressions, because they always could be misleading, and in this case, patently false. When you cherry pick the evidence that you want to tell you, and then have the cameras rolling on a high-profile case to pressure you to commit a verdict of guilty, is patently unfair. And just because he's a nobody and doesn't have money, like Gotti or Joke, his brother, who were never even questioned or charged, he's the fall guy on all this stuff. He didn't do anything. Even if you believe Cornelius, all he says is, I just happened to show up there, and he said, hey, this is little C. Joke took over and started doing all the talking. Do you think that man could pay somebody $100,000 and you'd say, yeah, he's good for it, I don't need any validation, he's good for it? And interestingly enough, Cornelius' story also changes along with Angela's, because initially we were supposed to be paid $1.5 million. Then after another interview, it became $1 million. Then it became $500,000. Then it became $100,000. Then it became, we're going to split $100,000 between me and Justin Johnson. Then it became, somebody gave me $50,000 in a brown paper bag. Then it became, oh no, I'm wrong about that. It was after I was arrested, somebody gave my lawyer $38,000 in a bag to represent me. That's how many times the story has shifted as far as that goes. But the one thing that he does say is, after I got the money from Mr. Joke's people, it was understood that he was on that team. Again, Joke never arrested, never talked to, even though he says that's where the money's coming from. That guy doesn't have $1 million or $100,000 or anything like that. I may walk around wearing fancy ties, but he's indicted. The judge has found that. I'm here to help him because people that are labeled as nobodies, I will not tolerate it. He needs to be fought for. He is your peer. We need to do this right. Mr. Govan, stand up. Hold your head up high. Mr. Govan matters. You can't do this to people just for political gain because you got to solve a crime because somebody famous died. It's just wrong. But you can sit down. We can't have a society like this where you base convictions on assault rifle people opening up a fire on somebody. And you remember when I told you he couldn't even remember when that meeting was, that random meeting? The best thing he could do is remember that the meeting was sometime between when he tried to shoot Wu or somebody else. That's the best he could do as far as that goes. And so you have to believe if this meeting happened, for 3 months nothing goes on and then one day it just happens. Remember I asked you about pork chops and chicken and all that kind of stuff, if you're going to do something, even if you have a plan and it changes? If you believe any of that, he didn't have any plan. If you have a plan, you have a place to go. You have a place to hide out. You have an alibi built in. None of that happens. None of that happens. And Mr. Cornelius Smith is going to get up here and tell you, I want to bare my soul, I want to come clean, I want to do all this other stuff. You know I call BS on that hard because when he tells you that, and he will, because he's testified to it before, that he wants to bare his soul. He wants to make amends. Then ask yourself, why for 4 years? Didn't he just take a guilty plea and take his life sentence and start making amends? He still hasn't played anything. His lawyer's in negotiations with the government. There's, quote, no deal, but, you know, we do good things out of our heart when we're caught dead, red-handed, murdering somebody. Because we don't want any benefit by coming on the stage and telling you whatever you guys want to hear. 6 times with interviews, 6 potentially more times with the government, more interviews. The truth doesn't change. You don't have to remember it. You don't have to practice it. You don't have to rehearse it. It is what it is. And this is not the truth. I think I mentioned it in jury selection, but responsibility for your actions goes both ways. There's going to be a lot lacking in this case. For example, you'll hear about a lot of cell phone records and who may have called who, but the full-on analysis was never, well, I'll just leave that for the expert. It's all coming down to Cornelius and possibly where somebody's phone might have been. You don't know what they said, if they even talked, or if as a friend you're calling somebody after a shooting because everybody starts calling everybody within minutes after this, because social media blew up after this happened. You all know it. You all heard it. Everybody knew about it. Govan is your peer. He deserves better. We shouldn't be here. High-profile TV cameras or not, sympathy for a young man who's a musician, whatever he was. Nobody deserves to die. But you don't compound the problem by blaming innocent people for it. And even if you don't want to believe he's innocent, you want to believe Cornelius, they sure as heck didn't prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. I talked to you guys about that, like the British system. It's either guilty or they didn't prove it. So I'm asking you to at least at a minimum say he didn't prove it in about 3 or 4 days from now. Thank you.